Washington, D.C., I believe, right now, has no progressive voices on the airways. Cliff Schecter is with us now. Cliff, I mentioned, is an author, he's a pundit, he goes on radio, he writes a weekly column at Al Jazeera that's syndicated, but he's going to add media mogul to that intro. Cliff's got a nice announcement.
You can hear me? Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that, Nicole. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just start and I'll talk a little bit about my background and why, what helped come to this point. I got my start in media, I mean, literally like a rogues gallery of right-wing stations and organizations. One of the ways that I first met the esteemed Tim Carr, sitting at the end, is because I was hired in 2004 to go and debate politics on stations, the Sinclair Media Group, which I'm not sure if you're all aware of. Yeah. And they are this insidious organization. They're based in Baltimore. They're almost like, it's almost like an earlier version of the Koch brothers. Not quite as much money, but these bunch of these conservative brothers that just, they're the ones that originally played the, I can't remember the name of the ridiculous documentary, but the one that turned John Kerry into a Swift boater they put on. When Ted Koppel was reading the names of the soldiers that were killed in Iraq, they refused to do it. The Sinclair owned stations, so they owned a lot of stations in sort of medium to small markets around the country, local affiliates. So in key swing states, in Columbus, Ohio, in St. Louis, and in Minneapolis and others. And so, ironically enough, at one point I went on and I used to debate Armstrong Williams, who some of you may know is a paragon of integrity. So that was a lot of fun, but I was on this right-wing station, there's always me up against that. Now, it can be a lot of fun. I think Tom can speak to that. Every week he has a rumble where he takes on two conservatives and literally spins their heads until they don't know what hit them. So don't get me wrong, I'm a feisty type and I enjoyed it, but it was so controlled by the right wing. Tim, at one point, I was reading some blogs on it, and Tim wrote up this little piece where he called it Pyongyang on the Potomac. But said some nice things about me. And so I reached out to Tim and we became friends. So that was one of the ways I got my TV start. I also was going on Fox, at the time. I had a syndicated column through UPI, you might remember, owned by the Reverend Sung Young Moon. Not someone generally known for their liberalism and open-mindedness. And so I got in, they needed a few token liberals when I got in. But all that built into me, and thankfully I was able to do okay and broaden out from that and get to the point where I could get a column in Al Jazeera English and sort of could be strategic and say, here's a foreign station that's willing to air my views and not not edit them. And that opportunity, because I had that column and great people like these folks here would have me on their radio stations and still do to talk about my columns, and then we get out further. It ended up getting me a nationally syndicated column. So now I've got this article may shows up in newspapers in Lafayette, Louisiana, and in Baxter, Arkansas, which I don't even know where that is, but I'm in their newspaper, which is cool. Salem, Oregon, and so I'm reaching everyday people, which is so important to me. But to get to the key point, I still felt like, we need our own independent media. And so, and I love what I've seen all of you do. I mean, it's been you've seen what you did, Nicole, and what Sam's done with Tom, just going out there and getting it and building it. And so, a guy came to me named Alex Lawson, who is the head of Social Security Works. If you remember the myriad of absolutely inane things that Alan Simpson said during the debate over Social Security, Alex was the guy that went and got this caught on videotape to show kind of what the establishment was thinking here. And so Alex got this opportunity where he heard about this radio station. There was this man that wanted to sell and was willing to lease it out. It's an AM station, but we can get an FM converter. We can reach the entire... we can reach K Street, we can reach the Capitol. We thought to ourselves, conventional wisdom is being created here in Washington. And I've always thought to myself, I won't cast aspersions on anybody, I'll let you all just imagine who I'm talking about. But there's progressives, places of the nation, and others we know who are with us. There's Pat Buchanan, where unless I put on my Nazi Guard uniform, he won't be with us. And then there's a lot of what I would call swing journalists. They're just the swing voters. You know who they are. They're sort of, some of them are establishment liberals, some of them are modern, and they tend to write in their major platforms or talk about the last thing that they heard. And so I thought to myself, I wanted us to be the last thing that they hear. And so Alex and I got together and we started talking to some other folks, and we decided we're going to buy a radio station in Washington, D.C. and progressive talk.
Right on. Right on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But again, I have to say, without the folks that are right here, Nicole Sandler will be on our radio station. Sam Cedar will be on our radio station. Tom Hartman will have his fantastic 3-hour show live on our radio station. Heck, even Tim Carr was talking about pitching a show to me, and I'd love to hear what he has to say. Because I think
yeah, what's call letter?
Call letter. It's 1480 AM, and the only reason I don't throw out the call letters right now is we had an idea that we're going to potentially change the call letters to WWTF. Which I'll let you know. It turns out it's available, so please don't hear it right.
That's way in the future, by the way.
In the future, it's the awful White House side. And so that is what I'm hoping soon will be. We're going to have a huge web presence. Some other notable voices. Liz Winstead will be on the station. But I'm going to do a weekly show with Liz where she can carry me. If you were there at the gala last night, or you've seen her stuff, you know how talented Liz is. David Schuster, who's agreed to do a show, so we're going to have him doing a live show. Shannon Moore, who comes from Alaska, many of you may be familiar with. She's just brilliant. And others that I filmed out, I'm probably not mentioning. We've got a lot of great folks who are going to be on.
I can go online for those of us who work from the Podunks, like Salem, Oregon.
Listen, I'm from depending on Podunks, I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and all right.
Could be from Elgin, Colorado.
Me too, baby. We're taking it down. So I spend a good deal of time here in Washington. That's where my family is. Yes, we're going to have a huge online presence. That's a big part of it. I always felt like, and this was, that Air America didn't utilize that enough. They finally brought in Sam Cedar, who was brilliant, and probably, if they had let him do what he could have done, probably could have, I'm sure, turned that into a powerhouse. I think there's a lot of potential there. There are a lot of progressives that are online, as we know, and we brand it right and we do it right. So it's going to be a multimedia platform. And we're talking to other independent media, about potential partnerships and others. And I can't go into names yet, but it's some good folks you'll have heard of. And so, we just decided at that point, at some point you just go and you do it. And we did it, and we thankfully have some people willing to invest, and we're putting up some of our money. So, my wife may divorce me if it doesn't work out. She's a wonderful woman. We're very excited about it. And, we're aiming right now, end of October, beginning of November, but certainly there's a lot of things that need to get done, and if it takes a little bit longer, we'll certainly be up by the beginning of the year, I'd say at the latest, and so for the election cycle, we'll be there, and I'm very excited about it. And the last thing I want to say before I stop is there's a lot of different ways people can get involved, and people can find ways to utilize independent media and non-corporate media. I just want to, Nicole threw a shout before, but I'll throw it out. I've got two friends here right now, John Sinton and Reed Haggard, who've got this fantastic app for your iPhone or your Android that Progressive Voices is going to be a one-stop place where you can go and use the growing mobile internet to find the progressive voices that you need to find. And so that's just another creative way of getting around the corporate media folks who control things. So I think I've talked enough with that.